T and XP acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, the Turrbal and Yagara people, and pay respects to elders past, present, and emerging.
Welcome to T and XP, a couple's cozy gaming podcast.
We're feeling cozy, and we hope you are too.
My name's Alexander.
And I'm Erin.
T and XP is like a book club for cozy video games. And today, we're going to be looking at the moody, atmospheric game that is Night in the Woods.
We want to flag that our discussion of the developers necessitates mentioning some distressing events. Listeners might prefer to skip forward, and we'll include timing in our show notes if you don't want to hear about it. And we won't discuss it again until after Alex mentions award nominations to give you time to pause if you wish to do that.
So, to kick things off, Night in the Woods is a 2017 single-player adventure game developed by Infinite Fold and Secret Lab and published by Finji. It's a great example of a successful Kickstarter-funded game, and this won the most fulfilling community-funded game category at the South by Southwest Gaming Awards in 2018. It's also been nominated for a heap of other awards. We won't go into all of them, but it did also win the narrative categories in both the 14th British Academy Games Awards and the Independent Games Festival Competition Awards. At the Independent Games Festival, it also won the Seamus McNally Grand Prize, which is the top award at that festival.
But on the matter of more sobering events, we want to note here that one of the programmers, developers and composers of this game was accused of abuse in 2019. Shortly after, he died by suicide. This is something that is readily searchable, and although we aren't going into that on today's episode, we thought it was worth acknowledging because this individual did impact the lives of people around him, and we don't want to minimise that. However, we don't want to simply not cover the game because many people worked on this game. It's an enjoyable game to play, and let's face it, if you made the game alone, perhaps we wouldn't review it, but the fact is other talented people also worked on Night in the Woods, and this game is their legacy too. Night in the Woods has some darker themes than our previous episodes, such as dealing with mental health and violence. It's not dark enough for us to exclude the game from being considered cozy, but it's certainly gritty, and one should keep that in mind if choosing to play.
This is the first game we review that we think is still cozy, but probably departs from being super duper cozy, unlike the earlier titles. Mm-hmm. It appears in plenty of cozy gaming lists, and isn't just us challenging the notions of what cozy gaming is. There's a bit of a consensus that this still qualifies as a cozy game, but we'll get into that later on. On to the game. Night in the Woods is a 2D side-scrolling game, where the player takes the role of May, a university dropout returning to their small hometown, and reconnecting with all the friends and baggage they left behind. There's a hometown to explore, and there's some finicky jumps to navigate, but at its heart this isn't really a Mario-style platforming game. Rather, it's a narrative-driven game where player agency is about determining how May spends a given day, who they talk to, how they mend or ruin relationships, and exploring what's changed around town in their absence. It's also bursting at the seams with minigames, which we'll talk about more later.
Absolutely, I love the minigames. So, May, a 20-year-old college dropout, comes home during the semester and won't discuss it with friends and family. They come back to their hometown, which is quite downtrodden. There seems to be an economic recession on. There's lots of talk about jobs and work around town, both from May's friends and people that they eavesdrop in as they walk around town. They are reflecting on their seemingly aimless life, and each day has no noticeable goals except to connect with friends, amuse yourself, and band practice. And as May connects with old friends and new friends in the town, they find a severed limb, and this triggers a police investigation. You can poke the limb with a stick.
They had some great limb poking with a stick physics in this
game.
Yep.
And we will talk about art later on in terms of why this is not too gory or icky as well. So, yeah. May's friends include the hyperactive Gregory, who works at the local convenience store, his quiet boyfriend Angus, and the parentified goth Bee. And during the town's Halloween festival, May witnesses some sinister activity, and it appears to connect to the disappearance of a childhood friend. In the town's climate, many of these sort of events are chalked up to people leaving to find better opportunities, and May isn't believed when she tries to report the disappearance on Halloween to the police.
To be fair, May is a terrible communicator.
Absolutely. How do they say it? They say, there's a dodgy dude over there, and they took a kid, but maybe it's a ghost.
They say, yeah, it's something like that. I think I saw someone steal a kid and they're a ghost, and this is in the middle of a Halloween festival.
Yes.
At no point did I use the word kidnapping or anything.
No, absolutely. And to imply that what they saw was a ghost is probably not the best way to pitch it to the local police as well. So go, May, let's get some communication going. So if you described this game, though, on its final scenes, you'd actually be describing a really different game from the one you've been playing. So we're going to make sure we don't spoil the end of the game, but we talk carefully about the majority of the gameplay and themes that we find in the game. But at the end, the group does realise that life has completely changed forever, whilst not really changing at all. There's lots of narrative threads to pull on, but ultimately this is a game with a clear beginning, middle and end. And all the while you will be accompanied by autumnal visuals, a great soundtrack, and a surprisingly grounded cast of zoomorphic characters.
So like I mentioned before, if we're talking about the actual game controls and the game mechanics, there's a lot of running and jumping and stuff. Sometimes this is a bit clunky because it's not a very sophisticated platformer, but again, it doesn't really need to be. The heart of the game is about who May interacts with and selecting dialogue options, and just kind of exploring town, meeting people, and then meeting them on subsequent days and seeing how they develop alongside you.
Yeah, there's a lot of, speaking to people and then being like, well, goodbye, and jumping up into a building or something.
Yeah. So some of your dialogue choices will impact, obviously, on how non-playable characters will respond, including friends and family. This impacts some of the achievements you might unlock during the course of the game, but by and large, it's mostly just about how you want to express May's personality.
How sassy you want to be.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, and they are a very sassy character. There's lots of very witty dialogue between May and the characters of the town as well. So,
and by and large, it's like a pretty conversational note to most of it. Like, it's not going to be these big dilemma points you see in a lot of role-playing games. Like,
True.
Oh, do you side with this person or that person?
Yeah.
It's just a lot of kind of, shooting the breeze and catching up with people and, yeah.
Let's talk mini games.
Oh, there are so many mini games.
Yeah. A lot of fun. What do we mean by mini games if someone has never played a game within a game before? I guess I just described it.
That was actually a pretty good description, just a game within a game. So there's going to be different objectives while you're playing the main game, talk to this character or explore town and find things, but there's actually, like I said, a heap of games within the games. So one of them is going to be band practice. If you've ever done Guitar Hero or anything like that, you're going to have a rough idea. It's basically pressing the right button at the right time just to do your part in the band practice. It's a lot of fun. It's pretty hectic. I thought I was pretty good at it. I thought I got about 90% of the notes, and then at the end they're like, oh yeah, that wasn't too bad. And like, what more do you want from me?
And it was still a lot better than when I played it, and it was sort of like this kindly disparaging comments of like, ooh, they didn't know what to say to someone as bad as I was at that game.
But there'll also be shoplifting, there'll be stargazing, there'll be some dream sequences. I'm sure missing heaps here. Yeah,
there's that game where you stand on a car and smash things with a baseball bat that your friend throws to you.
Yes, it's almost like, clay pigeon shooting, except instead of a gun you have a baseball bat, and instead of clay pigeons it's fluorescent tubes.
Yes, and this really... There's a couple of games, if said like the shoplifting, and there's one where you muck around with a fountain in a shopping mall, and there's the one where you hit things with a baseball bat.
Oh, there's the one where you reassemble an old mascot from spare parts.
That's right, yeah. And it really speaks to May and where they are at the moment, because they're drifting. They don't know what they're doing with their life, and it's about figuring out what to do with their hours in the day as well. There's no real purpose to it. It's just about in-the-moment amusement.
There is also an entire separate game within the game, which you can fire up on May's laptop.
Oh yeah, 8-bit dungeon thingy.
Yeah, Demon Tower.
That's
Part
right.
4.
Which was really difficult. I think I gave up after about 5 levels, but you actually managed to complete it.
I did manage to complete it, but that is an intense game. Yeah, it's got like a full 10 levels and its own game mechanics. We will not be giving it its own review, but I think it just speaks to the real kind of labour of love that went into this game, just that they have such detailed mini games and such in there.
Very true. And that mini game, you don't have to play this all the way through if you don't want to. It's just a game that's on their computer and you can have a look at it if you want to, but you don't have to. And it has no bearing on the game. It's just there if you want to have a bit of fun. I do want to talk a bit more, if that's okay, about the dream sequences.
Yep.
How would you describe them?
So the basic structure of the game is that you'll start each day with May waking up in bed, then you'll explore town, talk to people, so on and so forth, and the day will end with May going to bed. That's where these dream sequences kick in. So they're intended to be a bit of an interlude. They do play a part in the story, but I think the main thing to note is that they're much more game-y than just exploring town. The jumps are a little trickier, you have to dig a little deeper for the exploration, stuff like that.
Yeah. The goal of the dream sequences is quite simple. You're basically just finding something that's in each corner of the map that you're playing at the time, and it's cute and something happens as well. And then each of the dream ends with different messages of different sort of urgency, and or whether they're just talking about what's on their mind or something like that as well. Some of them end quite gently and some of them end quite, not violently, but just sort of
ominously.
Exactly. They're kind of ominous. And I said, it's hard to explain how they tie in to the game, but I'd say that the main part of it is just explaining where they are in that moment and how they're feeling as their time in Possum Springs, the name of the town, goes on.
So before you go any further into the dream sequences, or really any other aspect of this game, I think it's worth pointing out the visuals, which are just fantastic. So first and foremost, it's leaning pretty heavily into the autumn palette, which a lot of people are going to love in its own right. It's 2D, but it's got a kind of cartoon, not even cartoon, more like a kind of comic book vibe to it.
Oh, yeah.
There's a zoom more for characters, and there's a really nice colour palette done with this part cartoon, part comic style. It's obviously seasonal, but it really adds to cozy vibes. So you'll be having these orange, brown and violet and petrol blues kind of, in the background. The characters themselves are quite sharply detailed, but there's a lot of muted tones and blooming light in the background, at sunset or sunrise. The dream sequences are also just really well done.
Yeah, absolutely. And after the Halloween festival, the palette changes again. It gets colder and again reflects where May is at the time as well. And as I said, just really reflects the environment that they're in at the time as well.
It's also got some great attention to detail. You'll be kicking through piles of autumnal leaves. You'll see kind of traffic and pedestrians passing you by to give the town a sense of life to it. There'll be birds in the background.
You can jump on cars.
You can jump on cars, yes.
I don't know if that's anything to do with the artwork, but I like it. Overall, the artwork really just reflects that obviously it's autumnal, it's a seasonal thing, or fall if you're in America. It's a fall game.
It is set in America, you're right.
Yes, that's true. But also it reflects the character of May and the downtrodden town. Things aren't super bright and happy and perky because May and the town are neither of those things at the moment.
So is this a good point to talk about accessibility?
I don't see why not. Okay. Very little of the main game requires high levels of reflexes or skills. Like we said, there is a bit of jumping and everything, but there is not a lot to progress the game that relies on your reflexes, which is really helpful as well. For the guitar playing game and the dungeon crawling game, dexterity and timing is needed, but it doesn't impact the outcome of the game, only certain Steve achievements. So, someone like yourself, you can get those Steam achievements if you want, and I won't because I cannot be bothered hating life that much to continue playing to try and get that as well. It's just, for me, that level of repetition in order to try and make it work is just not enjoyable for me. So they're the kind of mini games that I would probably skip personally. The other thing as well is there's fairly large subtitles and text. There's guaranteed progress and there's no need for really quick reactions and reflexes. The text is white on black though, so there is potential for that font in that black and white colour to impact some people as well. And we couldn't see any options to change that at that point in time as well. So something to think about if you have font or black-white contrast issues as well. And that's accessibility.
So yeah, I think the main takeaway there is just what you mentioned with guaranteed progress. that you're not going to miss a jump and lose a life or anything. Like, the worst that will happen is you might miss a jump and have to do it over again.
Yeah.
But you don't lose health, you don't lose time.
No, yeah, exactly. There is no time and there is no health in the game as well. You know, if you fall off a roof, you just fall off a roof, you know, and land on your feet because you're a cat, I suppose.
And if you really can't be bothered with any of the platforming, you'll still get 90% of the game content just running around town and just skipping any of the ledges or telephone wires or anything else like that. So, we've spoken about the game mechanics, we've spoken about the visuals, but that's still not really what this game's about. That, like we said, it's very narrative driven. So how about we get stuck into that?
Yeah. So I would argue that even though May is 20 and talks about being 20 in the game, I feel like this is a bit of a coming of age story. May is returning home from college. As we mentioned before, they leave college. We don't know initially and for a long time why they ended up leaving college. They just quit, came home suddenly in the middle of the night. And even though they are not a child anymore, there's definitely these ideas of growing up. They come back to this town where things are moving on, but also are kind of the same at the same time. And they come home because of, but are also impacted by their mental health. They talk to a doctor about, well, we don't see the doctor in there, but they are writing in a journal about how they're feeling. And everyone in town makes jokes that if you go see this doctor, they make you write in a journal about it as well.
Yeah, and you can actually look at the journal. May fills it out as they go along, just with hand-drawn sketches, again in a kind of comic book style, and that's a little charming as well.
Yes, absolutely. And you can see if you've missed any content because there will be blank pages in your journal if you've missed any interactions with characters as well. You also realise that because May is not talking about their college experience, and there's also this incident before they went to college that's alluded to repeatedly. So a neighbour talks about May being no good, and a smaller character, younger character that May befriends talks about something that's happened before they went to college. And we don't find out about this for a long time. So I would argue that secrets are part of this as well. The idea that May has secrets, but there's also other people keeping secrets from them.
It really leans into that small town vibe where everyone knows everyone, but there's still these undercurrents going on.
Yeah, and that speaks to the idea that the town itself is a character in this game. You know, it is a declining town. There is this economic depression going on, and yet it also sells itself as this very typical middle America town as well. People are leaving to try and find different opportunities. The opportunities that remain can be quite limited. So May's dad works at the Ham Panther, which is a local supermarket. You do get to visit the Ham Panther, and it just looks like a supermarket.
Oh, I think that's the point. It's no longer the local supermarket because that closed down.
Oh yeah, it's a chain?
Yeah, so it's like the big budget chain which is on a highway which everyone has to go to now because the town's in economic decline. And the local one, kind of bug me not remembering the name of it.
Snack Falcon?
No,
Oh no, the one that,
Yeah.
I didn't realise that you had to attach a food type and an animal type to be able to name a grocery store, but there's the Snack Falcon and the Ham Panther. And the one that closed down, I guess it doesn't matter because it closed down. So,
and even throughout the course of the game, you'll see that other stores close down. And so there's one where May has a small existential crisis on the streets because their favourite pizza joint has closed forever.
Absolutely. And then they see there's also an Italian place, Pastabilities.
That's the pizza joint.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
No, okay. That's the one, that closes down. You can't not mention the name, Alex. It's beautiful.
Okay, that one's on me, fair enough.
And on top of this as well, there's, stalls and shops that remain open, but they're changed as well. So the mall is quite dead when they go there. There's a lot of shops that have closed down, and the ones that remain open are, just mainstream kind of ones as well. The town contains, weirdly enough, this sewerage system that you can walk through to take a shortcut to other parts of town, but it has a single pretzel shop in there that you can shoplift from if you want to. And there's lots of characters at different times in there that you can interact with, finding out their secrets, working with them, finding out what they are thinking about at the time as well, and help progress the game.
I was never sure what that area was supposed to be. Like, is it an old subway? Is it an old canal?
I think they tell you, isn't it it's a train, like it's an underground train system and it's flooded or collapsed or something. And that's when you can go and jump on that guy's boat and go check it all out and scavenge for stuff in the wreck.
I forgot about that. Yeah,
Yes.
another minigame.
Another minigame, absolutely. Or a side quest.
Okay, we'll call it a
yes,
side quest. Yeah, close enough.
I guess the other part of this game that's really interesting is May. She is such an unapologetically unlikable character to me. I just don't like her.
So I think part of the issue here is that a lot of the story and like one of the big themes it leans into is this sort of slice of life stuff. But with that, there's a lot of, I'm going to say teenaged angst, even though they're all in their early 20s, but that's basically what you're dealing with.
Yeah, these stunted characters who can't actually get past something in their own way. I would go as far as say that May Bukowski is like Jay Gatsby. She's this unlikable character sitting in a masterpiece. And yeah, it's just this idea that the game can still be really good even though the character can annoy you.
That's tricky because I know a lot of people on social media were like, oh, this character's so authentic, they're so real. May annoy the life out of me at times.
Yeah, but we're also grown-ups.
That's true, yes.
We're not kids. It's like when you read Catcher in the Rye as a kid and you're like, this is amazing. And then you read Catcher in the Rye as an adult and you're like, oh no, kiddo, no, you're not doing it right.
And I understand there'd be no storyline if May came back and was just openly communicating about her problems.
Well-adjusted
exactly,
individual.
yeah.
Yes.
But there's times it's like, May, what are you doing? Stop ruining your life. Stop ruining other people's lives.
Put the bottle down.
Yeah, how are these the only two dialogue options?
Yes, for sure.
One of the big narrative aspects is the relationship between May and her friends in particular. You can strike up a discussion with a lot of people around town, and you'll see how their lives develop over the course of the game. But I think the core storyline is between May and her 4 friends.
Yeah, I'd say 3 friends because they're in the band with them as well. And I think the really interesting friendship in there is actually May's relationship with B, who is I'm going to call alligator. America, alligator?
Let's say alligator.
B is an alligator who, since May left town for college, has had to take over the running of the family hardware store. And you realise that she's really in a position of parentification over her dad. She's running the store, and also it just means that they don't have a lot of time for May's crap. And I think that's actually really important. There's times where B really calls May on what's going on and how they're behaving and the choices they're making. And yet they do actually really, through different scenes they were exploring and out, and when they go on their little mini adventures and everything, they really do come to this really nice understanding of togetherness as well.
I actually really liked B's character for that because I think initially they're set up to be a bit antagonistic because they're giving you the cold shoulder, they clearly don't like you, and you had to kind of play the story to figure out why.
Yes.
But also, none of B's stuff is particularly unreasonable. That, she calls May on some really bad behavior. She explains that, you got this big chance to go to college and you came home and you haven't told us, you haven't told anyone what actually happened.
Yeah. And at the same time, though, May has a friend like Gregory, who is the one who works in the Snack Falcon. And Gregory is unapologetically enthusiastic. There's lots of arm waving. It's very cute. And also very accepting of where May is at that time. And it's not because he doesn't care as much about May or anything like that. It's just he's coming at it from a different angle than B. Like, care from Gregory looks different than care from B looks like as well, and really helps round off the people caring about May outside of their family.
There's also some really interesting stuff with how May interacts with their parents, especially when they're coming home under this, a bit of a cloud.
Yeah. In the evenings, Dad's on the couch watching TV and they watch this hokey, terrible evening comedy together that you get to watch with them, by the way. It's good fun. And they don't talk about problems, but it's that lovely classic thing between kids and parents sometimes where this parallel conversation helps them connect and work through some stuff at the same time. So even though they might be talking a bit about the TV show or other things that have happened in the day, it really helps them grow a bit closer. And then in the morning with the mum as well, you come downstairs and mum's there and you talk with her before she goes off to work as well.
Yeah, I think the mum's interesting because, again, a bit like B, the friend, the mum's the one that actually calls May on a lot of the circumstances and things May really needs to address and would otherwise try and avoid.
Yeah, absolutely. Mum's the one that May fights with a lot more as well compared to Dad.
But again, I thought they did a really good job of having this very genuine development between the characters, and that one I thought they did actually do really well.
Yeah, there's lots of characters that we haven't actually mentioned
There
because,
are so many minor characters, and they do
yeah,
a really good job of all of it.
yes, absolutely. And there's minor characters that have these, they're tiny but rich little points as well. Like you meet the local minister and you end up eavesdropping on people that work at the local call center and like hang outside the bar and everything like that. And everyone in the town has a little story going on and part of their life that May gets to interact with for a brief moment.
And that's really well done, and just one of the huge strengths of this game. And I think, that's a big reason why it qualifies as a cozy one, because it has this kind of celebration of everyday people and everyday circumstances.
Yeah, and it is a fairly typical cozy game mechanic, whatever,
Yeah.
where you go around town and you talk to people and that helps progress the game.
Yeah.
It's just that the themes and some of the circumstances attached to those interactions are a little darker than some more wholesome games like Eastshade.
Yeah. So, to its credit, and I think this is one of the big strengths of Night in the Woods, is that it finds this really good balance between serious themes such as change, growth, loss, and grief, and a lot of dark humour. It feels at times like we're watching a teen movie from the 80s or 90s, and it has this kind of cool self-awareness coupled with earnest messaging and some bittersweet hometown moments.
Yeah.
It's also got a lot of time where, just as May, you're just killing time and hanging out with your friends and getting up to shenanigans, and I think it does that really beautifully.
Yeah. So, with that in mind, then, how would you describe and talk about its coziness?
Well, you see, unlike the other games we've reviewed so far, Night in the Woods isn't a wholesome nostalgia trip. So it's not like unpacking, but it's also not really a gentle quest-based game like Eastshade. It's very narrative-driven, and the main character, May, is pretty self-serving and self-destructive. There's a few moments of catharsis and release, like Gris, but they don't result in beauty, they just really result in things going back to normal. It's almost as if the discovery at the end and the game's adventure that May and the group go through is almost a bit too big for them to handle and process. Yeah, I think at its core, it's not an entirely cozy experience, but it's still got some beautiful visuals and some great slice-of-life moments.
Lovely. How would you rate it on the cozy scale?
Well, I think there's a lot of cozy factors. I think it qualifies as a cozy game, but honestly, I'd probably give this about a 2 out of 5.
Yeah, me too.
And it's not just because it has some light horror themes, it's mostly just because, there's a bit of grunginess in there.
Yeah, the palette and the pace and the mechanics are what make this a cozy game, not the themes or the characters.
And certainly not some of the dialogue you have to go through.
No.
It's well written, but it's also extraordinarily cringy. In a kind of...
I thought it was funny.
Oh no, but there's some scenes like the party and whatnot, where you're just watching this train wreck slowly unfold.
I guess, but...
And that's part of the drama, that's what you're there for. But that was not a cozy one for me. I was just dying inside watching someone else go through this stuff,
That's true. Nothing like watching a 20-year-old make bad party choices and everything to really make you feel alive.
What would you say about the actual game rating, though? In terms of gameplay, the game experience.
Well, I didn't love Night in the Woods the first time around. I did find May so immature and stunted, and what she found cool and interesting at 17, she actually still found cool and interesting at 20, and they actually talk about that a bit at points in the game. The shoplifting and occasional attempts to hang around younger kids than them really set up May to be a cringy hanger-on, and I really hated that for them. But I found I couldn't stop thinking about it. Where I found May annoying at first, I realised more that they were actually a victim of their environment and their experiences, coupled with their complete disassociation from the world at times. In fact, you find out that May's disassociation and disconnect from the world is the root of several of their problems, including why the townsfolk of Possum Springs are wary of them and why they dropped out of college. I found that as a result, even though the character of May was frustrating for me, I really liked the game overall. I really liked the messaging about it, and May's character was part of that. That was an integral part of that as well. I played this game drinking mostly peppermint tea, but I think May would drink a chai laced with chili pepper or whiskey, or maybe sour eggnog, or bathtub gin. I don't know, it wouldn't be a good choice for them.
Yeah, I was going to say it'll be a bag of goon.
Yeah, absolutely. Do our many hundreds of international listeners know what goon is, though?
It's wine in a bag.
Wine in a bag, yeah. Overall, though, I would give this game about a 3 out of 5, or a B if you're rating it on the SABCD, etc. scale.
Yeah, look, I more or less agree with that rating. There's some heavy themes in there, but it's also got some great moments just, about slice of life and about wasting time and hanging out. Kind of exploring what it is to be directionless when you head home.
Yeah, the only reason I wouldn't give it a 4, even though I really loved the exploration of those themes, is because that third act of the video game is a bit disconnected from the rest of the game. There isn't quite that foreshadowing or flow that you would expect. It sort of gets to the end, starts the third act, and you don't quite see it coming or why that particular ending is coming. And the ending is great and the game is great, but those two things together are a little bit disconnected for me, and that's why I went with a 3 and not a 4. It's not that I didn't really enjoy the game. It's just that I think you have to acknowledge that little disconnect in the story there.
So if I was going to nitpick, and just why I would also give it a 3 out of 5, it's just some of the controls that, this was a huge labour of love and there's some really polished mini games in there. I just wish the core platforming was a bit tighter.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, that it's got this awkward thing where you can only do a high jump by doing 3 consecutive jumps, so sometimes you just have some weird timing trying to do 3 forward-moving jumps on a tight ledge, and it's got a bad combination of being requiring quite a lot of precision, but the controls themselves also being quite clunky and quite basic.
Ah, okay. Fair enough. Overall, 3 out of 5, 2 out of 5 on the Cosy scale. We're giving it a B. We really like this game, but we think people should know about some of the themes and mechanics going into it.
Yeah, look, I'd agree with that. I'm not sure that a lot of the internet would, because I know people on social media adore this game, and it's got some huge fans. So I don't know if it's divisive, I don't know if we're the outliers, but, expect an angry horde on your door is what I'm saying.
Absolutely, yes. We'll have tens of people letting us know.
If we have tens of listeners, I'll be thrilled, yeah.
Absolutely. On that note, hi, Mum and Dad, who we know listen to this podcast. So.
Okay, well, that's all we have time for today. We'd really like to encourage you to follow our Instagram account, which you can find at T&XB Podcast. And if you like listening to us, reading, reviewing, and following are really helpful in ensuring like-minded people find us.
We know we're learning about all this podcasting stuff, but we really appreciate your patience as we learn.
And so, all there is to say is, thank you for listening to T&XB, a couple's cozy gaming podcast. Join us next week for cozy gaming royalty, Stardew Valley. Stay cozy.
Like an unexpected visit from your kid while you're working your shift at the Ham Panther.